Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Assael.
I'm Galit.
And we run Own Your Shits. And we are very happy to have our very special guest, Mary Jo Barrett, which I will introduce in a moment. We run our center. We work, what's the name of the Facebook group? No, it's on my wall.
It's on Assael Romanelli.
Assael Romanelli on Facebook. We'll also be sharing this recording with everyone who registered, and it's also going to go on YouTube. We'll just say that we offer couples therapy, and we're trying to change the world one couple at a time. And since the war broke out, we've opened a relational
home front
where we offer free webinars and trainings because we really believe that right now couples, the home front, are the future of this country, and we want to give practical tools for couples. This is what we do on the day-to-day. And we've started this line of English webinars because we believe that we need help. We reached out to therapists that we adore and appreciate and enjoy and look up to. And it is my honor, and I'm so thrilled and excited to have Mary Jo Barrett come straight from Chicago. I want to introduce her briefly, and then I want to introduce her from my personal story. So Mary Jo Barrett is the executive director and co-founder of the Center for Contextual Change. She's currently on the faculties of the University of Chicago, at the Chicago Center for Family Health, and the Family Institute of Northwestern. She has co-authored 2 books with Dr. Terry Trepper, Incest, Multiple System Perspective, and The Systemic Treatment of Incest. And she also co-authored an amazing book, a seminal book called Treating Complex Trauma, which we'll put the links in the YouTube channel. She co-created a collaborative stage model, a highly successful contextual model of therapy used to transform the lives of those impacted by abuse and or traumatic events. She provides consultation, workshop courses, and other training opportunities nationally and internationally. And I want to say at a personal level, I met Mary Jo Barrett 15 years ago when she came to do training in Israel. And she was just amazing, accessible, wise, knowledgeable. And I have been reading her books and teaching her Torah for years. And when the war broke out, it took me a couple of months to wrap my head. But the second I contacted you, you were so positive and enthusiastic. And I'm so grateful. And I want to thank you.
Well, thank you for the invitation, because so many of us, whether it's in the U.S. or not in Gaza or Palestine or Gaza or Israel, feel pretty powerless. And this is a way right now to help me get into an engaged mind state.
And I think, there's so many things we could talk about, but I think for me, the survival mind state, or what we call trauma mind, and engaged mind state is something we talk about and use every single day. And I thought, let's just jump into it and tell us a little bit about it.
The thing I like the most about what you said is use it every single day.
Yes.
Because that's this. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I have always had a very warm place in my heart for you. I think it's because the first time I met you, I think I told you that yesterday, we were talking about comedy and improv, even though we were learning about sexual abuse and incest. And it's comedy and improv is one of the best ways to heal from trauma, because laughter, absolutely, if you're laughing and you're smiling, you have to be in an engaged mind state in order to laugh. You can't laugh in a trauma state. So laughter right there is a healing. And I think that's partly why I, have such a warm place for you in my heart. And Galit, it's, guilt by association. Sorry. So even though we're going to talk about really concrete tools, and I'm going to hopefully demonstrate a few things with you, my thoughts about healing in relationships really is much more, I would say, a spiritual and emotional, how to access those parts of ourselves. It's through some techniques, but more from just a commitment to concepts. So the first concepts I just want to share, and as I'm talking, both of you for the audience can talk about what gets stirred up or your thoughts as with each and every slide, okay? So the first thing I want to talk about is when we're trying to heal, this concept is the way we heal within a relationship, whether it's in a couple or friendships or with kids, is how to access our knowledge and our connection. And to me, our gifts, the gifts that we are born with, are wise mind and open hearts. It's life that has closed our hearts and has closed our minds. So part of what the process of healing from trauma is, if we can have a good head and a good heart, we're unstoppable. And it's when our minds and our hearts are closed that we're frozen. One way, which is how to move from a trauma mind state or a survival mind state into an engaged mind state, is self-awareness and attunement. I'm going to read this because this quote I love so much that I can barely stand it. The range of what we think and do is limited by what we fail to notice. And because we fail to notice, there's little we can do to change until we notice how failing to notice shapes our thoughts and deeds. So the primary skill to open our minds and open our hearts is to notice when they're shut, to notice when they're closed, to notice when they're off lines, whichever way you want to think about it. And once we notice, then we can heal and change. So what are we wanting to be aware of? We want to be aware of what's going on in our bodies. We want to be aware of what we're thinking or not thinking, shut down. We want to be aware of our feelings, and we want to be aware that in the moment we are in relationships, whatever those relationships are. And I want to be aware of others. What am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I sensing? How is the person I am in relationship with in this moment? What are they reacting? So it's who am I? What is happening to me? And what am I observing in others? Now, a sidebar. I know some of the audience are therapists and some are not therapists. My sidebar to therapist is when we're doing therapy, that's a lot to be aware of, because you have to be aware of self. You have to be aware of other and the interaction between the two or five or six. And you have to be aware of your interaction. So that's a whole other talk show. But that is one of the major skills necessary for healing trauma as a profession. So another one of my watchwords, the quotes that I follow, is life is a repeated cycle of getting lost and then finding ourselves again. There are many small cycles within a cycle where we get lost to a smaller degree. In a moment, we get lost, and then we can remember ourselves again. Sometimes we get lost on purpose, consciously or unconsciously, yet every time we get lost, it's an opportunity to learn something or experience something from a different perspective. So what I'm saying is, I'm talking about going into a trauma or survival mind state as a getting lost in the moment. And so getting lost in the moment is, we can't prevent it. We can't avoid it. It just happens. And it happens all the time. And it happens to a bigger degree, a deeper degree, a more frequent degree when we are living in the world that we're living in now. It's impossible to not go into trauma states, whether it's being in Israel, being in the Middle East, being in the United States, or wherever we are. In this moment, we are in a very traumatic state in the world.
Yes.
And so we're going to get lost. We're going to get lost. We're going to go, who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? And then, and the minute we're aware that we're lost, if we take that moment to find ourselves, to look at that being lost as an opportunity to attempt to open our minds and our hearts. So, how do we dig deep into our spirit in order to find our gifts? All right, so we're going to do a little exercise right now, okay? Everybody can do this, but you too can. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is just, if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. If not, just look down. And I'd like you to remember someone that had a very powerful, positive influence on you. Preferably, don't even try to think about your parents. So don't think about your parents. Someone else that had a powerful, positive influence on you. And when you have that person, just shake your head so I know you're happy. Now take a moment, and what did you value about that person? What about that person did you value? And what do you know they valued about you? And how did you know they valued you? What did they say? What did they do? What did you feel? How did you know they valued you? And when you're ready, come back. And it's interesting. First of all, how do you feel right now? Besides that you're both smiling. Warm and fuzzy. Feeling warm and fuzzy. What's that feel like for you, Galit?
Just so cozy and home and safe and light.
Okay, great. How about you?
I feel seen. I feel really seen and appreciated and celebrated. I feel like I feel very open.
Oh, wow. So, can you tell me a little bit about the person? What did you value about them? You can say who they were or not. I don't care.
So for me, it was so clear that it was going to be my Saba, who really was this very special person in my life from the time I was a baby, and has been a huge influence on me. And I valued his calm, and he was very affectionate, my Saba, and he loved to learn. And I don't know, it was something very, when it was the questions of what did I valued that in him. I valued this kind of deep respect for learning and an encouragement of learning and curiosity. And then when I thought, well, what did he value with the questions about what did they value about me? All of a sudden I was kind of stumped, because it was just that, like, he raised me. He was the one when I was at 6 months old that would give me like a bottle, and the joke was kind of growing up that he continued to feed me until I was like 12, and he would feed me, and he would like also feed my best friend that would come over, So then I was like, well, that kind of question kind of stumped me as to what he valued in me, because I don't actually know. I just feel like he just loved me.
He valued your existence.
Yeah, it was just like my friends. Yeah. And it's funny because we always joke that, like, this is an unpopular opinion, but we always joke that, like, we don't really believe in unconditional love, right? There's always some, like, there's always stuff, you know, you have to be kind or you have to, but this was kind of like all of a sudden that question really stripped it down for me. And like, he just loved me. He just loved me. Just the presence of me, just, you know, and it was so mutual. Like we could just sit holding hands, or we could just sit kind of like pedaling after a Shabbat meal kind of thing. Yeah, so
Wow. More to say about that in a moment. So
I think for me, for some reason, Dr. Eisenberg, my first boss, my first
beautiful
therapist supervisor, and he really raised me. And I think, you know, he gave me a shot in the therapy world. So I was a social work student. He basically let me do my thing, improv and a couple of family therapy. And I think it was really nice when you asked, what did he see in me? Because I never actually thought about that. And I think he saw my hard work and my creativity and my vision. And what he did is just give me space. That's what he gave me, space and support.
So, the couple of things that I want to just point out, and everybody, none of this was planned. I didn't pay them to say things to make it's a better workshop. You both talked about knowledge and connection.
Right.
Right? Yeah. And you both talked about that, how much the other person just valued you, whether it was valued skills or valued concretes or just valued your heart, valued your mind, valued your heart. And it didn't take these unbelievable astronomic behaviors
Right.
To communicate that to you.
Right.
And the other piece that I want to point out is how, for the moment, you feel grounded, you feel cozy, you feel you're smiling, your skin color is absolutely changing. I mean, you look and feel different. Now, go turn on the TV. Okay, and so that's the moment. You know, and so one of the suggestions I'm going to make is, as a couple, when you are dysregulated, maybe it's right after you watch television, what else? That two things. You bring your Saba and Dr. Eisenstein into the room. Bring them to the room. Introduce them to each other. Tell a story about them to each other. Talk about them, feel them, and then later on we're going to talk about how you can use some of these things that you're learning about yourself to talk to each other about what you need, okay? But the first piece I want is, and you can do this exercise with other people, but now your Saba and Dr. Eisenstein, yeah? Eisenberg, okay, whatever, are your guides. Yeah. They're your guides now to regulation, and to engaged mind state.
Yes.
And don't forget it. Okay. So one of the things you said is that something about your vision.
Yeah.
Okay. In order to strive in this world that we're living in order to strive, we need to be able to somehow create a meaningful vision of the future.
Wow. Which isn't easy these days, Mary Jo. It's really,
I know.
not easy.
Well, but we can do it.
It's true.
I mean, it's really hard, but we can do it. And even if it's a moment, the meaningful vision of the future, you looking at your kids, you looking around with your peers that are in this with you, my colleagues that are in this with you, my communities that are in, we are the future. You more than me. I don't know how much more I'm in the future, but in this moment, I'm in the future, right? I am the future. And the way to create this meaningful vision of the future is to connect, is to create connection and be the village, to experience being empowered, whatever that means. How do I get empowered, and how do we help each other be empowered? And how do we experience I'm valued? When people are listening to me right now, I feel empowered and I feel valued. And so partly my saying to you, I'm going to do this, is about helping me create a meaningful vision of the future. You know, in my journal today, when I was thinking about this, and I'm going to share a writing assignment with you later, I thought, what I'm doing with you, I have to try to do every couple of days. I have to, whether it's continue all my work on the south side of Chicago, I have to contribute. That's me, right? I have to share knowledge. That helps me create a meaningful vision of the future. And I have to provide hope. And that means how do we, as a couple, help each other create an internal representation of a better world? So to you as a couple, talking about your children, talking about doing things, having those moments with your kids, if possible, right? That we have to. Now, I understand in a war, and I'm not losing sight of any of this. In a war, people who are in the midst of the literal combat and the literal physical threat of war, we have to stay in, those folks have to stay in a survival state or they won't survive.
Right.
However, people who are trying to help, people who are trying to give, people who are trying to create meaningful visions of the future, trying to help others heal, we have to be able to do this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So a trauma survival mind state is when we're experiencing unmanageable stress and we're in the freeze response. In that moment, we are unable to organize our experiences, make meaning of them in a way that's predictable. It's hard for our development and our growth. It impairs our regulation, our ability to control our impulses, et cetera, et cetera. Now, if, again, we're not suffering in the moment from acute PTSD, which is our lives are in this very moment endangered, we have to be able to recognize I am in this state. That is the first piece, okay? And we'll talk about how to recognize it later. What is happening? I don't know how many of you know concussion protocol, but if you are literally concussed, there is a protocol. Do you two know the concussion protocol? Like for in rugby or American football, or even, anytime you fall, you get concussed. The protocol is no screens, resting, breathing, eating very healthy if possible, getting appropriate kind of rest. That's a concussion protocol when you're physically concussed. I'm saying what we have to look at is we are experiencing emotional and spiritual concussions.
Yes.
We are having a life experience where our brain and our spirit is being bludgeoned with hard blows.
Yes.
And these traumatic events and traumatic stresses induces adrenaline and cortisol. And adrenaline and cortisol wires the brain for fight, flight, freeze, and I've added an F, fix. So when we're in a trauma state, we often go into, what can I do right now? How can you do this? What can I do? And as a couple, that sort of demanding, controlling, fixing, when it comes from a trauma state, is not only not helpful, it can be very hurtful. So if we don't recognize we are emotionally and spiritually concussed, we will stay in fight, flight, freeze, or fix. And so recognizing we're concussed means we have to follow a protocol to get ourselves out of that state.
I'm also realizing that me and Galit had very different reactions. We're different trauma mind. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that in a second. So what we have to also recognize what triggers our concussed mind states. What are the things inside of ourselves and outside of ourselves? So inside of ourselves can be something happens inside, like I can't breathe, and then I get escalated. Or something inside of myself where I realize I just didn't know, I lost the last 10 minutes of time, or I have stomach issues, or I can't breathe, or I, have diarrhea, or feel like vomiting, or these are internal states. And then what's going on, and what I'm saying is, what usually triggers it is you feel disconnected from yourself.
Yes.
You feel devalued, out of control, and powerless. And I would say for many of us now, we are in a constant state of feeling disconnected, devalued, powerless, and out of control. So I just want to, and then I'm going to stop and we'll do a little exercise in a minute. But what I think a lot of information is necessary so that you can truly understand what your trauma survival mind state is.
Yes.
These in the biz, in the therapy biz, we might call these symptoms. I don't call them symptoms. I call them survival techniques.
Wow.
And these are what people do, humans do. These are fight, flight, freeze, and fix. It's what we do in order to avoid pain and memory. Okay? Mm-hmm. And they work until they don't. And most of the time, they don't work in a couple. Okay, and I'll talk more in detail. But just take a second, the two of you, and you don't have to share in front of the world what some of your avoidance techniques are. But
I'm happy to share. Mary Jo, we're happy to share. Let's do it.
Well, look at it. What would you say some of your avoidance techniques are?
I would say I definitely become hypervigilant. I would say,
what's that look like for you?
Just like very jumpy, very on edge, very hyper aware, but also like very irritable, and maybe kind of a need for like control. And I would say anger and aggressive behavior, like lashing out, very impatient,
yes,
and short, and yeah.
I think for me, I would say definitely dissociated, depressed, numb, very cocooning. I 3 monkeys. I don't see, I don't hear. I'm like complete like withdrawal, numbing. Yeah, that's dissociable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the good news about that is that you're aware, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. You're aware.
Yeah.
And because you know, the greatest couple in the universe. But if you weren't the greatest couple in the universe, then partly what has to happen is, oh, I'm shutting down. So that to me means, what do I do to get myself in an engaged mind state? What are my internal knowledge and skills, and what are our relationship skills? Okay. So what we're trying to do is get ourselves into an engaged mind state, right? And that means how can you get yourself in a place where you have access to incorporate your tools?
Yeah.
So, you know, I watched the two workshops or whatever, Zooms before, and unbelievable skills and tools that people were demonstrating and talking about, and even I am. Before you can use your tools, you've got to get yourself into a state so you can access. It has to be a consciousness. It has to be a commitment. You know, you have to commit. At the end of this, you know, hopefully if this feels helpful, people will say, I am committed to this process. I am committed to know myself so well that I know when I'm in a trauma survival state, and know myself so well and trust my partner so that together we can get ourselves into a regulated state in order to use our tools. Okay? We have to be aware of our resources, which some of our resources already, we talked a little bit about with your resource person, but we'll continue to talk about it. Okay?
Yes.
So one of the tech tools I want to give you is talking about 3 zones: red, yellow, and green. Okay. And that arch that you see, that bell curve, is what happens as we get escalated and then how to bring us back down. All right. So what we want, nobody can live, particularly now, but in general, no one lives in the green zone, except maybe the Dalai Lama. Maybe. And that's because the Dalai Lama can spend his day, that's what he does for a living, is kick myself into the green zone. He doesn't have children, he doesn't do laundry, he doesn't cook for himself, he doesn't even drive for himself. He can stay out in nature. Then I could stay in the green zone too. Right? Yep. But that's not what happens to us. What happens is we get triggered, activated, and go into fight, flight. Oh, I didn't put freezes up there. Fight, flight, fawn, and fits. And that's the yellow zone. Right. And each of us have to recognize. So I'm going to take a second. What's each of yours fight, flight? You sort of said it already, but what's each of your fight, flight, fawn, and fix look like?
Well, like, which one is my go-to, or in each one of those, what does it look like?
Either way.
Well, so my fight is uncombative, and I am impatient, and I
critical.
I am critical.
Short-tempered.
Yeah. So okay, we might want to do each other.
Yeah, let's do each other.
No, you can help each other. But wait a minute. Okay, good. So Galit, turn to him and tell him what you're aware of. And Assael, don't you help her unless she asks for more ideas.
Okay. I'm aware that when I get triggered and am in yellow, I snap a lot and I lose it quickly. And I am very critical and am very short. And is there anything else? Is there anything I forgot? Or is that the gist of it?
I think it's the gist of it.
You sure? If she asked, you can take this moment.
I just think you're impatient, critical. There's only one way to do things. Very like my way or the highway.
And very like to 100, like extreme.
Extreme and also contempt, like
contempt.
A lot of contempt.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about you?
I think for me, what I'm aware of is I'll go very, very numb. I'll be very passive. And I think I just kind of shut down into myself and go, I'm in work. I'm not present. I'm not proactive. I'm not engaging in conversation. And I just kind of want to go back to work where I feel I have a meaning in it.
Or any form of doing.
Any form of doing, yeah.
So let me just ask. So in fact, if you look at the chart, you go to red.
I think I'll go to fix, which means I need to do something, but not engaging with my family. It won't be with Galit or the kids. It'll be like...
He'll go to logistics.
I mean, not that this matters, but now I'm just being curious. Now I'm doing a little...
Do
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But I wonder if you go, which is good, you go to red. And then one of the ways you bring yourself to yellow is to go down to fix.
Well, I know one of the reasons I don't watch, and I'm off all social medias. If I see too many posts or too many headlines, I go straight to hopelessness, and I just feel despair, and I can't. So you're right. It's like I don't touch it, and I'm like I can't do it, and I have to run.
And you also go to like the extreme.
Yeah.
Like when you do consume, you consume like the
worst news. Yeah.
So the reason, not again, that is it really important to be able to go, I'm in the yellow, I'm in the red, but the reason I want to emphasize it is that when we're in the red, we are really, really not in relationship.
Yes.
Right. What this work or what this time together is about is how to use relationships as healing. And you really, when you're in the reds, you cannot access your relationship as a resource.
So I actually think, Mary Jo, that's really helpful for me because I feel like you're onto something with that. I think you do go to the red and then come down through the yellow because you do kind of just like there's no one to talk to.
Yeah, I'm not present at all.
And let me be sure that you're not hearing yellow is Galit's better because, well, that she said, she's yellow.
I've done so much work on myself.
It's just, if you look at the arch, to get back to the relationship and the connection, it is further when you're in the red.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that just makes brain sense, right? That just makes brain sense that it's further when you're in the red to get back, and you have to go through the yellow. So you're fighting, but you're there. You're fighting.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm definitely there.
Yeah.
And that is just you are in relationship, and that the yellow is closer to getting to being curious, being grounded, being breathing. It's one of the things that we're going to talk about in a minute in terms of you as a couple is how can you help each other come back through the arch into the green? And know that we only can be in the green often and again in this time and in what's happening for moments. And then we're going to go. And then we're going to come back. And then we're going to go. And then we're going to come back. And that is what's happening when we're living in a traumatic world.
Well, I think even just recognizing that SA kind of tends straight to go to red, whereas I stay in yellow for is really helpful because I feel like when when I then don't get engagement, then I feel so lonely and so, like isolated and then overwhelmed that then I go to kind of like this hopelessness.
That's interesting. I mean, what's interesting is that when you feel lonely, and that's the interesting piece, because look, in some ways what you're saying, Galit, is you're in yellow, and when you're not connected, you end up in red.
Yeah.
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 And that's how a relationship works, is that you end up matching him. It's like one of the things I say to parents all the time: don't match your kids' emotional state. If they're having fits, don't start yelling. So what happens is, as couples, we often match our partner's emotional state. And that's not what we want to do. What we want to be able to do is manage our own and have our partner be able to match our green state.
Okay.
You don't want to match yellow and red states. You want to match green. This is the victim survivor cycle. Okay. So let's say, based on the world today, we are spending most of all of our times in yellow. Right?
No.
Yeah.
Now, if you see this interactional cycle, so the one, let's say, yellow and kind of orange red, that side, just for random sake, that's you, Galit. Okay?
Uh-huh.
And the other side, a little orange and red, is you. Okay? Because you tend to get to red. All right? So I didn't know this ahead of time.
Hey, wow.
No, I didn't. You're not as original as you might think you are. So, all right. So, wait, you, what are your vulnerabilities? What do you know triggers you?
When I feel like I'm
Not just from him, could be anything. What gets you in your yellow?
when I don't feel seen or heard, when I feel completely dismissed.
Okay. So that could be the kids.
Always 100% the kids.
Okay. And what about the world, right? So if you watch television,
Anything related to sexual violence, I kind of, I stay clear from that because that really just like shuts me down. That gets me to red.
okay, so let me ask you a question. What's going on with you right now? Right now.
No.
You feel numb? What?
Yeah.
Literally what you feel in your body.
Hot.
Hot. What else?
Just kind of flatline.
Okay. So you're numb. It's interesting because when you started talking about the sexual violence, I felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt real like I was being choked inside of me. Right? Anything else you're feeling right now?
Hollow.
Can you give me an image of what that would look like? What's hollow look like? If you had to paint, if you wanted me to feel hollow, what would you tell me?
Those like cutout paper dolls, the very basic cutout paper dolls, but black.
Black. And then
So just like one-dimensional, fluffy.
okay. So right now, what we're gonna do, I kind of hearing that, Assael, what goes on with you?
It's really interesting. I didn't even notice the shift, Mary Jo, that second you went there, like something, Galit, you kind of And I guess in those moments when she flatlines, I'm like, I'm scared, or I feel distant. So I retreated.
So see what she flatlined, see her survival skill, and and it triggered your vulnerabilities. If you're looking at that cycle, she goes flat, she stuttered, there was an energy when she was talking about just, general, the kids or whatever, sending her in the yellow. When I asked about now, she absolutely shifted.
Yes.
And that triggered you to start going into your red.
Stonewalling. Yeah. I just became, oh, okay, all systems down.
Right. And then, so let's say I wasn't here. Would probably, each of you would keep escalating. And if he then shut down and stopped talking to you and didn't see you, that was the first thing you said, is what triggered she was not being seen. He's in his red and he goes like this. This is the gesture he made. Yeah. So that's like closing his eyes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What would happen to you?
Well, I think if I'm already if I'm to the state of like hollow, nothing, I'll disengage.
So you'll disappear.
Yeah. Until I'm able to then kind of like come back and maybe I feel like probably
yell at him.
So yeah, something like yeah.
So, partly, Galit, and that's, again, this isn't good, bad, or different. You're less comfortable in the red than he is.
Yes, 100%.
So you
I hate the red. I think it's more the first time that I've ever felt like I can't avoid the red. I can't hide from the red. I'm in the red. I might as well surrender to the red. Like, it's the first time that I've ever really immersed myself in the red. And I hate every minute of it. It just, it's horrible. And that I've never experienced so much.
And what you do with some consciousness, obviously, is try to get yourself to the yellow. And that's like throw a punch.
Yeah.
Metaphorically.
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
So, and my guess is she starts yelling and that just cements your red.
I'm done. I'm out. I'm 100 miles away. I also grew up in a depressed home, so that I know red's home.
Red is not scary to you. Like it is to her. Right.
Yeah. And I don't even know it. Like, I can be numb for hours. I won't even notice it. I'll just be doing automatic kind of doing.
Yeah, that's usually how I'll pick a fight, though. As I'll usually say, like, oh, well, you want to spend time, or you say that you want to be together, or you say that you want, but you don't mean it.
Right.
Like, you're not doing it.
Right. Okay, let's, that was very nice. So.
Oh, what? Touch. You just touched me.
Is that
touch
good?
Is really important. Touch brings me back.
So touch is good for you. Well, there is exactly where we're going. Okay. So again, we're taking two sides. So Galit, we're just starting with you random. So when you feel powerless, out of control, devalued, but disconnected from whether it's whatever, from being in a bomb shelter, hearing noises, hearing sirens, having your kids act out, having whatever it is that sends you into that zone. We're not talking about the relationship yet. What do you know can help is a resources to you to get you in, even in a, if you notice it's a light green, somewhere between the yellow and green. What are your resources?
So definitely stopping, like a pause and a breath, definitely. And then kind of talking myself down, like really trying to look at the situation differently. Like really trying to access kind of like we call it a take two. Like, okay, how else can this go? How else would I want to have this go?
And what do you know helps you get to a consciousness about pause? Because what is important, the word you use is, I call it pause and ponder.
Yeah.
And what we need is when we're in the yellow and somehow even in the red, but you might have to help him get out of the red. So what can help you recognize that you're in the yellow and take a pause and ponder? What happens? Can you feel what's in your body?
Yeah, definitely. Well, usually I know I'm in the yellow because I'm like, it's escalated, like I've shouted or whatever, and then I can kind of stop and like you say, like the pause and ponder, and then just the pausing even just like brings me back down to my body and just slows everything down a little bit. And then I think I've never actually like really thought about this to like, I think I kind of like visualize how I would engage differently. Kind of like really see myself, like, first of all, trying to figure out, okay, what's behind like the anger? Like what am I feeling? Because that's my go-to emotion is anger. So when I'm like afraid or sad or helpless or whatever, it's like, it's anger. So I think I try to kind of dig a little deeper and see what else is under there. And then from that place, how can I engage in a way that will bring me closer rather than push away.
Mm-hmm. So the beautiful part about that, and what I'm assuming most people who are listening to this would say, well, that's all great, but that means you have to recognize it's happening. And my pushback to that is most of the people listening are not psychotic. And I don't mean that humorously. Right. That means you can, if you commit to it, if you commit throughout your day, every hour, when I start yelling, when I feel contempt, when I will do a pause and ponder, I will breathe, I will get a glass of water, I will ask for a touch, I will touch, since you know that's something that works, I will take a few steps, that I will commit when I see X, Y, and Z in myself. I will commit to pausing and pondering and accessing my resources. It is a commitment to healing and change. Changing it, people can't just go to therapy, can't learn some skills, will get some tools without the pause and ponder, without taking a moment and opening your heart and opening your mind. You can't just use a tool if your mind and your heart shut. So we have to commit to recognizing we're in the yellow or the orange or the red, and commit to a pause and ponder. It is the only way. And the more often you do it, the easier it becomes. So it's harder if you shoot up into the red. So, but do you know when you're there?
Sometimes I'll notice when I'm so in doing, I can't even stop. I'll look at the clock. Time is flying, and it's hard for me to disconnect from my station. And that's, I think what helps me is I stop and I put music on, and I have to move, physically move. I'm kinesthetic in that sense.
So you know that's a resource, is movement.
Movement, putting on music, breaking, putting on an apron, like switching to home, to like trying. I mean, maybe it's more of the red, I don't know, but it's like switching on to being now in service of family.
No, that's not red. I'd say that's green, because you're connected. I mean, still, one of your resources is to do. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a doer, right? But it's about what mind state you do out of.
Yeah.
If you're doing out of a fixed trauma mind state, that's not helpful to you or to your body or to your relationship. If you go, I'm shutting down, I'm numb, I'm going to re-engage with the family, but I got to do something. You're present, you're connected.
Right.
Right?
But I must say, I think most of the time I'm not even aware I haven't read. I'm so used to, I grew up alone. I'm so used to being with myself alone.
So I have two things I want to say. One is, when Galit went into the high yellow, you noticed, because you said, I shut down. You said, I shut down. All I said was, what's going on with you? Right. And you said, boom.
Yeah.
So you knew.
Right.
You knew what that felt like.
Yeah. Cold.
Okay, you felt, all right, well, but I think that part of what might happen is you're giving yourself permission to shut down, because that's what's so familiar to you.
Yeah.
But my guess is you recognize when you're on your way into the red.
Yeah. When I'm really numb, yeah, I'll notice. Nothing can touch me. I'm in. Yeah.
And you have to commit to bringing yourself down. So I have another question. And maybe you already know this, what can or does Galit do that can help you get, when she notices you're in the red, because your red triggers her, right? So she notices when you're in the red. What could she do to just bring you into the yellow and start coming down to the green?
Well, some of the things she does, and something I'm just brainstorming. So one is touch, to physically touch me, because that brings me back to here and now and connect. When she tells me to take a walk with her and with the dog, when we walk with the dog. So I'm in movement, I'm stepping out. I'm realizing, though, as we're talking, is eye contact, because even when we're walking, when I'm not looking at her. I don't look at Galit when I'm in red. I'm in myself. And like to look at you is like, I need effort. That requires me to be vulnerable, to be present, and it's hard for me.
And Galit, he can't look at you if there's if there's aggression in your eyes.
Right.
So, I mean, this is where it's all cycle, right? This is, I'm yellow, I'm feeling aggressive. How do I calm myself down? Oh my God, he's in the red. And, you know, at this moment, because every time Galit's in the high yellow, you're not in the red. So it would be the same cycle. When you start hearing her angry, critical, judgmental, you're not always in the red.
Right.
So same thing. What can he do to help you if you look at this cycle? What resources do you know he has that can help you when you're feeling vulnerable?
I think sometimes when he's able to stay in green and then he can use humor, then that really like brings me right back. So then I can come down. Sometimes when you tell me to like this, and like usually if it's with the kids, then he'll be like, okay, disengage, like go take a walk or go take a drink or go like take a breath. That always helps me.
I'll give you a little words that help. So when you see her escalating with the kids, say to her, I got this.
Yeah, that. And also I was going to say just like acknowledgement, like even if, you know, if I'm losing it over, you know.
Cottage cheese.
Right. The door being left open.
So what do you mean is
like, you know,
take respond. I'm like on my shit and say, I left it.
I know. Yeah, I know I did it. I know. But it's like just the glossing over, the like, it's fine. That's like more of the dismissing. That's more of the like, what are you talking about?
You're not feeling seen. You're not feeling seen and heard.
Right.
And I'm realizing that for me, that really, as you said, it's an active process stepping out of red and going and engaging because my body just wants to dissociate. It's really staying in the heat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a commitment, but you can do it. All right, I know we don't have a whole lot of time.
We have 10 minutes, Mary Jo. So
I know. Let's breeze through a few slides. Everybody's going to get these slides, by the way.
yes,
right?
Yes, it'll be emailed, then it'll be.
You'll get you'll get the PowerPoint. So I want to share, and this is a journal exercise. You don't have to do it. It's some variation. But what I'm suggesting is that this is an exercise I do every day. My morning ritual is cup of tea, journaling. I have a couple of different journaling things, exercise, that's my morning. And I get everybody doesn't have the time to do it all at once, but this is a daily plan of how to regulate, how to move from trauma mind, survival mind state into engaged mind state. And there's very clear instructions, and it basically is get yourself, whether you meditate, whether you breathe, and think about your day. Think about your day and what renders you powerless, out of control, disconnected, or devalued. The refrigerator door being open, getting yelled at, the kids not blah, 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 him shutting down, her, what are the things that are probably going to make you dysregulated today? What are the things that are going to literally get you lost? Okay? Plan. Think about the relationship. Think about work. What will get you lost most likely today? Write it down. Then, and here's some more items. How's it going to happen in relationships, physically, spiritually, emotionally? Now think about each of those contexts, so those are the contexts in which we live. We live in relationships, we live in our body, we live in our emotion and our spirit, brain, heart, body. What can you do to create power, connection, and value in a meaningful way? What are your intentions with your children, with your partner? What are your resources? Write them down. Journal this. What might be the triggers and what might be the moments, and use that as a pause and ponder. What's going to let you know you're being triggered? So you go, I'm in the kitchen, the dishwasher, the refrigerator. I've been watching the news, hearing sirens, whatever it is. When that happens, what's my plan? What's my meaningful plan for in the moment, in my relationship, in my life? How can I create meaning? What am I going to do? Is it going to be a touch? What will I commit to? That'll be your meaningful plan for the day. And that rhythm is the rhythm of nature. Contraction and expansion. Contraction and expansion. We contract what's going on and we expand. And it's simply a repetitive practice. And what happens when you repeat it throughout your day? Dysregulated, pause and ponder, regulate. Dysregulated, pause and ponder, regulate. You are creating pathways to all three parts of your brain, which is an engaged mind state. The more you do it, the more you will have very direct pathways. I can close my mind and in 25 seconds, see something in my mind's eye and bring myself. I can call upon my guides. 10 seconds. What do they value about me? What do I value about my partner? What do I value? That's what it takes. And pretty soon you'll get so good at recognizing you're going up and be able to turn that around.
I mean,
we learn
idea of a plan for a day.
Great. We learn, we change, and we heal through practice. And practice means performing the same acts over and over and over and over again in the face of adversity. It's the same act of vision, of faith, and desire. Practice means you will live what you desire. So what will I do differently, daily, weekly, monthly? When will I do it? How will I do it? How often will I do it? And who will support me? Pause and ponder. Who am I at this moment? Where am I? I'm right here. I can do this. It is now, and I will use my gifts. Only bacteria survive and thrive in a poorly cared for body and soul. It's between the stimulus and the response, that pause and ponder, that space that you have to practice to get. It's in that space where our power is to choose our response. Yeah. Is our response going to come from our head and our heart open? And that is where our growth and freedom lies. So, look deep and you'll understand everything better. Thank you.
Thank you. I love that.
Oh, you just dropped some bombs there at the end, some truth bombs.
You made me realize that I like the...
Wait, Mary Jo, close your share screen so you can see you there.
Well, I just wanted to say that the plan piece, I really like, because it made me recognize that I have this kind of cycle with my eldest every afternoon, where there I kind of shoot, I think, immediately to red. Like, I even know before even going into the interaction with him that it's going to just explode, and it's become one of those, like, we practiced it the long way for so long and I don't even know how to get out of it now. And that plan of like, okay, I know that this is the tough spot. I know that this is coming. So how am I gonna, like, it, like that plan of like strategizing the interaction in advance and then committing to it. And
that's where your co-parent and your husband can help, because what I would venture to say is that when you try to help her and she's in the middle of the yellow, it doesn't go too well.
No.
Right. That you try to do something helpful while it's happening with you and your eldest, that's not the time. But helping with you saying, what are some of your ideas in my plan? You are in agreeing making the plan, then you will be able to perhaps give some ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm thinking, as we're wrapping up here, and if anyone's on, you feel free to, if you have any questions or things you want to write in the comments, please, in the chat. But I wanted to say what I'm really taking kind of the last few slides was, this is really an opportunity for spiritual practice, and for basically, this is a practicum. It's a horrible practicum, but it's life, and we have a choice to either live in red or in yellow, or to choose to work on ourselves. And it's not easy. It's really not easy.
Well, and I think the other piece is, we can't, in terms of a spiritual practice, we can't help the world when we're in red or yellow.
Yeah.
And if who we are is we want to create a meaningful vision, then we have to find ways to be in the green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also you normalizing that it's impossible to stay, especially with wartime now. You can't really stay in the green. It's gonna be green, yellow, green. Like, it's these touches of green.
Yeah,
right.
It's not just
like green isn't like a destination that we get to and then we stay there. It's like this. And we can like,
it's impossible. It's impossible, even not in a wartime, to stay in the green. It's the best we can do is be able to get ourselves recognized and get ourselves in there, and then wait till we get thrown out. I'm going to go and walk outside to walk home and it's 6 below. That's going to send me into the yellow. Right? But the thing I can do is make sure I put on my hood, make sure I wear gloves, make sure I walk fast. There are always ways. Yeah. Unless we are literally in a moment of where we need to be in the red in order to survive.
And I want to say something, and then we'll do a closing round. I think I'm looking at you, Mary Jo, and you're green. You're all green today.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, one of the things we help our clients is to really, we give them a sense of green. We help them, we give them hope, we give them play, we give them curiosity, and hopefully we're usually more regulated than our clients. And I think what I was thinking about it right now is, like, I felt reaching out to you on the other side of the world, was kind of saying, hey, we'd love some green over here, because it's really hard to hold ourselves and then hold our children and the community, but really we need that, because this is our future.
Yeah.
And we are the future. As you said, the vision, like, this is the future of the society.
Well, two things that I want to say. You're right, the green, I didn't even think about that, but two things. One, that yesterday when we just chatted, and you wrote me afterwards and said, just seeing me felt helped.
Yeah.
And that I want, how easy it truly is. You know, that's why I said bringing your guides in. You know, just, you know, I don't think you felt held all the rest of the day. But if you had stopped yourself and went, oh, that was so nice to see that old teacher of mine, you know, that still was laughing at me, I think, you know, it's, you know, it's like, I mean, obviously humor is a huge way to bring me to green. I listen to humor all day long.
Yeah.
Constant. So and the point is that's what's good for our health. I mean, we could get out. I mean, you know, you used all the right words, and we could do a whole. Maybe we'll do a follow-up and talk more about it, and do more exercises. But you know, that's what exercise is, right? Get your heart rate up, which is stressful. Bring it down.
Right.
Up, down, expansion, contraction.
Yeah.
And that's how the world, nature.
Yeah.
That is what nature, the sun goes up, the sun goes down, the moon comes out, the moon goes down, the tide goes in, the tide goes out. It is that rhythm, that cyclical rhythm that creates life.
So we're going to start our closing round. Galit, take a moment, take a breath. What's one thing you're taking, one thing that you want to keep thinking about? A moment you're taking with today.
I'm taking the plan. Well, I'm taking two things. One, I'm taking the plan because I feel like I really need it. Because I literally feel like every time I kind of, it's that like that late afternoon interaction where I feel like I'm going into war with him. So I feel like the plan. But also there was one of your quotes right at the beginning where we purposefully, something about how we purposefully, consciously or unconsciously kind of like dip into, right, those moments of yellow or red. And I was thinking how today, sometimes usually I'm really good about kind of where when I watch the news, but sometimes I'll like seek it out and then I'll kind of sink in. And there was something very normalizing about that quote, about the like purposefully seeking out and sinking in, because I think, and like you say, kind of that natural like cycle of like green, yellow, red kind of thing. And I feel like that's our reality right now. And in a way, for me, almost it's like dipping into like, I don't know, kind of like, you know, finger on the pulse. Like we have a saying, finger on the pulse here, you know, like I'm still in touch with like with society at large, and I'm not just kind of in our little bubble. There was something very kind of normalizing in that for me. So thank you.
Mary Jo, one thing you're taking from today, or a thought, or something you want to share us and the viewers and listeners? And
I think what I'm taking away is how even teaching this and doing this helps remind me. I mean, as I was talking, I was also listening to myself and say, whoa, you missed some opportunities already this morning, you know, and being able to go back and acknowledge to my husband or whoever the moments that I missed it, and how conscious I am and still need to practice it. That consciousness never becomes total habit. It's got to be a conscious commitment.
I think for me personally, what's coming up is generosity and warmth, because I think in many ways, you know, you're one of those characters that has been with me. And I think this war has forced me, or given me the opportunity to do things I've never done before. And one of them is to reach out to you and to just be vulnerable and say, help. And I think what I'm taking is the choice to it's practice.
Practice, yeah.
Practice. It's a spiritual practice.
And it is choice. It is choice.
Yeah. And so before we say goodbye, for the viewers and listeners, if they want to learn more from you, give us the where can we, I'll put all the links, but if you want to say a couple of words.
I think that if you want to learn more from me, certainly get the latest book. And in the book, our audio, you'll see pages where it tells you to go to a certain MP3 and you can listen to me doing therapy. You can listen to me doing a teeny lecture on what you just read. Throughout the book, it's pause and ponders. So I have you pause, ponder what you just read. So I think the book, I will have a new website as soon as somebody offers to give it to me, help me make it for free, because I'm an old lady and don't know how to do it myself. And so then I would say go to my new website, which will be www.maryjo.barrett. I don't know, Mary Jo Barrett Consulting. I don't even know, but go to my old website, Center for Contextual Change, and it'll direct you to the new one. And I think the other is if people want to learn more, consult on cases, or even do any kind of family reconciliation work or this kind of work, just email me, which is on my email address is on the first slide. So you can contact me that way. And we can do another one of these too.
We'd love to. And I want to wish everyone moments of green
Yes.
connection, reaching out, and maybe all grow from this experience.
I contact Alaska.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone.
And the thing I would suggest is print some of the individual slides, some of the quotes, some of the things, and put them around just to say, hey, is my heart open right now? Yeah. Have you lost? I mean, put them around. We need as many stimulants and triggers to bring our guides into the room with us.
Yes.
Totally.
Yes. All right. So we wish everyone a good night. Thank you for being with us.
Lila Cove, Lahitra,